This is But Why, a podcast for curious kids from Vermont Public. I'm Jane Lindholm. On this show, we take questions from curious kids just like you, and it's our job to find answers. The next time you ride a bus, a train, an airplane, take a moment and listen to the voices around you. Are they all speaking the same language? Probably not. Almost half the people in the world speak more than one language, and we know that includes a lot of you who listen to But Why. So we thought it might be fun to do an episode about all the different languages we speak and what it's like to speak more than one language. And we're going to hear from a lot of you. We asked those of you who speak multiple languages to send us a voice memo talking a little bit about what that's like. And more than 70 of you responded. Like Sophia, who speaks both English and Filipino and lives in the Philippines.
The reason why I enjoy being a bilingual is because I'm able to connect with other Filipinos in my country and learn more about my natural roots.
My name is Leah and I'm 10 years old.
My name is Fiji and I'm 12 years old.
We live in Krache Province, Cambodia.
And we're sisters.
We know 3 languages: English, Khmer, and Kro.
One of the good things about being trilingual is you can understand more people, and it's also fun learning other languages.
One word in Khmer is Suasday, which means hello.
In Krao, Banyan Zhong means what do you have to eat, and it's a greeting.
Hi, I'm Audrey. What I love about being bilingual is that I have a secret language against my mom. My favorite word is in French, bibliothèque. That means library.
Ooh, a secret language that your mom doesn't know. That's pretty good.
My name is Guga. I speak 3 languages, Polish, Portuguese, and English. What I like about speaking 3 languages is it makes me special. I get to learn about 3 cultures, and I get to eat burgers for breakfast, churrasco for lunch, and pierogi for dinner.
Hello, my name is Naya. I am 8 years old. I know 3 languages: Arabic, French, and English. Knowing different languages is important to me because I can communicate with people who don't speak English or other languages.
Naya, that's a great one, being able to speak to people who might not speak English or might not speak French. You can have so many choices when you speak multiple languages.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm 7 years old. I live in Canada, BC. And what I like about speaking 2 languages is that you get to talk more than normal and you can go more places and talk to those people. And what horse is in French is cheval. Bye. Thank you.
We also got notes from a lot of you teaching the rest of us how to say something in one of the other languages you speak.
My name is Francisco. I'm 6 years old. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. What I like about speaking more than one language is to understand YouTube gaming videos and podcasts like this one. Also English music. A phrase in Spanish could be pero por qué, which means but why. Hi, my name is Leah. I'm 6 years old and I live in New York. I speak English and Yiddish. There's a phrase in Yiddish, Ich bin süß. It means I am cute.
Hello, my name is Hannah. I'm 10 years old. I'm from South Korea. I speak English and Korean. A traditional way to say hello in Korean is 밥 먹었어? But it literally means did you eat?
Hi, my name is Maya and I'm 4.5 years old. I'm from New Jersey and I speak English and Spanish. I want to teach you guys how to say sloth in Spanish. Say it with me. Oso perezoso.
Hello, my name is Marlon. I'm 8 years old. I live in France. I speak French and English. I like to tell secrets to friends that speak the same language as me. I usually think in French, even when I speak English. Sometimes it's not easy to continue speaking English because all my day was in French.
And what word do you want to teach to the But Why listeners?
But why? Which is mais pourquoi? Repeat after me. Mais pourquoi? Again, mais pourquoi?
I'm going to be working on all of those for the next 3 weeks. And we're going to have more at the end of the episode, so stay tuned if you want to learn some more phrases in other languages. In addition to all of you who are experts at speaking your languages, we called up someone who's an expert in languages in general. Anna Babel is a professor of Hispanic linguistics at The Ohio State University. A linguistics professor or a linguist is somebody who studies languages.
I have the coolest job in the world because I get to go around and talk to people all the time. And then I think about how people talk and try to understand how people talk differently and what we know about people by listening to the way that they talk. My specialty is looking at who we are and how our identities, our personal identity, affects the way that we talk. So I'm interested in that because a lot of us speak more than one language. And so sometimes we can speak 2 languages at one time. We can switch back and forth. Sometimes we save one language for certain spaces and another language for other spaces. So there's a lot of different ways to be bilingual, to speak more than one language, but all of them are interesting.
When it comes to speaking more than one language, Anna says there's no hard and fast definition of how well you have to speak before you can call yourself bilingual, someone who speaks 2 languages, or multilingual, someone who speaks many languages.
I know a lot of kids can say ni hao, or a lot of kids can say hola because of Dora. That means that you already speak a part of the language. And there's not like a certain point, there's not like a line where you cross the line and all of a sudden you speak Spanish or you speak Mandarin. Usually what happens is that people learn more and more pieces and they start learning how to put those pieces together. And so there's kind of different steps that you go through. One is knowing and recognizing some words. Another step is being able to have a short conversation. How old are you? What grade are you in? Maybe what's the weather doing where you live? And from there, people just get more and more complex and they start to get more and more different topics that they can talk about.
My name is Luca. I'm 10 years old. I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And my question is, how many languages can a person speak fluently?
Yeah, as far as we know, there's no limit. So it's very common for people to speak 3 or 4 languages. If you speak more than 5 or 6 languages, then polyglot is this word that comes from Greek, and it means many tongues. There have been people who speak 70 or 80 languages.
Can you imagine keeping 70 or 80 different languages and all those vocabularies straight in your own head?
It's amazing what people can do with language. We're kind of little language learning machines. One thing is being able to speak a lot of languages, but also sometimes people understand languages that they don't speak. So I'm thinking if you speak 70 or 80 languages, how many could you understand? Like you could probably understand double that number.
There are more than 7,000 languages currently being spoken around the world. And Anna says you can probably keep learning languages your whole life. There's no limit to the number you can speak. Sometimes you learn multiple languages because the people you live with, like your parents or caregivers, speak different languages. So maybe you speak one language at home and a different language in the shops or when you're out and about with your friends.
Hi, I'm Evan. I'm 4 years old.
Hola, soy Toby and I'm 9 years old.
Hallo, ich bin Martin and I'm 6 years old.
We live in Macungie, Pennsylvania.
And we speak 3 languages: Espanol,
English,
and Deutsch, German.
We live in a multicultural home where we learn the languages from the countries our parents are from.
We speak all languages because our parents always talk to us in the languages. Adios.
Goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
My name is Julian and I'm 5 years old.
What languages do you speak?
English and Spanish.
What do you like about being able to speak more than one language?
I could talk to more people.
What more people can you talk to?
Like my